Today we're going to be ranking the worst demons from each of the Doom games in id Software's iconic series, and ranking all of them in a tier list that goes from worst to best from S to F. If you find yourself really enjoying this video, don't forget to hype so we can really push this in the algorithm and blow up the content. Anyways, without wasting any more of your time, let's get into the ranking. Now, kicking off this list, we have the Lost Souls from Doom 1, and yeah, these enemies are kind of obnoxious. I think my main issues with the Lost Souls in Doom 1 and 2 is how these enemies just infinitely respawn, which can just really overwhelm you in an unfair way. Dude, there are multiple sections in the earlier games where you'll just be stuck with dozens of the Lost Souls in a linear hallway or room, and it's always such a pain in the fucking ass to deal with. But to give the enemy some credit, I do really enjoy the variety of facing an aerial enemy, and I do appreciate the challenge he adds to the Doom series. However, it's just kind of a shame that he's consistently annoying across the entire series. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to put the Lost Souls in mid. Coming up next, we have one of the most infamous demons in Doom, which of course is the Archvile. Now, to be perfectly honest, you could make a very compelling argument for this guy being the worst enemy out of any respected game he's in. However, the reason I chose Doom 2 is because this guy seriously stands out in a game full of fairly restrained enemies. Every single thing about the Archvile is a pain in the ass to deal with, because not only does he have one of the highest health pools out of any demon in early Doom, not only does he almost never go into a pain state, but he can also resurrect every single demon you've killed in the area, and it's almost always the most frustrating bullshit you will ever deal with in your life. Honestly, I was really considering putting the Archvile in Doometernal spot because this fucking enemy is the sole cause of there literally being a fucking hole in my wall, and my ass nearly got kicked out of the house for that. However, in Doom 2, this guy really stands strong as one of the most frustrating additions to the series, and is easily the most obnoxious demon to fight in this game. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to put the Archvile in trash, and I know he probably doesn't deserve this spot, but fuck this demon anyway. I'm gonna make this one super quick because this genuinely might be one of the most hated demons in the entire Doom series. The Pain Elemental in Doom 64 has so many fucking problems. First of all, his main attack in this game is arguably one of the worst attacks in the Doom series, because this demon is basically a creeper from Minecraft. Whenever this monster is provoked or slightly pissed off, he'll self-destruct in a nuclear explosion, which is almost always a death sentence. And what makes this 10 times fucking worse is the fact that this version of the Pain Elemental is a complete abomination. Some people may love this design and call it incredibly ambitious and creative for the horror aesthetic of Doom 64. However, in my personal opinion, this thing looks fucking stupid, and that bullshit insta-kill death sentence only reaffirms the rage I feel towards this absolute abomination. Yeah, this one isn't even fucking close. For all of those reasons, I'm going to put the Pain Elemental in Doom 64 in trash. Coming up next, we have what is probably the most disturbing demons in Doom, which are the Cherubs from Doom 3. Now, to be perfectly honest, there's no enemies in this game I genuinely hated. However, the cherubs did stand out to me for both positive and negative reasons. First of all, the lore surrounding these enemies is incredibly sinister, with some very strong implications. That these are real human babies which have been possessed and mutilated by demonic energy, turning them into, well, this. Some of the game's most frightening moments are when you really start to put the pieces together and realize that these were once children. And once you combine that with the very horrifying sounds these creatures make, it genuinely made me feel fear in a Doom game, which is something I never expected out of this series. However, once that initial fear and discovery wears off, there's not really a whole lot to gravitate towards because these enemies are very weak. Perhaps if these enemies were a little stronger and maybe acted as a mini-boss or something like that, I think they could have been far more menacing and memorable, instead of being just another fodder enemy. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to put the cherubs in amazing. Coming up next, we have the Spectres from Doom 2016. And I'm just gonna say this right now, I really didn't want to include Doom 2016 on this list, because there's basically no enemies in this game I don't like. However, when I really thought about it, yeah, I really don't like the Spectres in Doom 2016. And that's mainly because you cannot fucking see these things for 90% of the time. Which I know is the point. I know these enemies are supposed to be invisible pinkies, and that's the whole idea of the challenge. However, it still doesn't change the fact that these fuckers were responsible for at least 60% of my deaths on Ultra Nightmare, because I could never fucking see them. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to put the Spectres in mid. Coming up next, we have the Doom Hunters from Doom Eternal. And I'm just gonna say this right now, I think the Doom Hunters are really good in this game. I think they're a fantastic addition to Doom Eternal. However, my main issue with this enemy type is just there's way too fucking many of them in this game. I think by the end of Doom Eternal, you fight like 50 of these guys, and by the end of this game, I just got tired of fighting them. Because while yes, they are an initial challenge in the early game, I just feel towards the latter half of the game, they just kind of come off as obnoxious. However, to give this demon a lot of credit, I do think his boss fight is great. That entire level in the Doom Hunter Fortress is easily one of the best levels in this game. And I do think he is an excellent early challenge and mini-boss for the early game. And before we move on, his design is fucking badass. So for all of those reasons and countless more I probably didn't say, I'm going to put the Doom Hunters in amazing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've all waited for this slot. Dude, every single person who clicked on this video knew I was gonna rant about this, because the Spirit in the Ancient Gods Part 1 is one of the worst, and I mean this, I genuinely mean this, one of the worst fucking enemies I've ever gone up against in my life. Almost everything about this enemy is so annoying to deal with. First of all, he's not really even a real enemy. You can't glory kill this fucking guy. You can't kill him in a satisfying way. The only way you can kill this enemy is to stand completely fucking still and use the shitty microwave beam mod, which nobody uses, by the way, to kill this one enemy. Words cannot truly describe just how bad this is on higher difficulties. Like, dude, Ultra Nightmare on the Ancient Gods Part 1 is terrible. It's cancer. It's one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my entire life. Because these fucking enemies kill me every single time, and what makes it so bullshit is the fact that the spirit can latch onto any demon, even marauders, even cyber demons. He has no limits. Hugo Martin really thought he cooked with the spirits, however, he didn't. The spirits in this DLC are one of the worst enemies I've ever gone up against in gaming. In fact, all of the enemies included in Tag 1 are easily the worst enemies in Doom Eternal. I hate almost everything about this enemy. I hate his design, I hate his inclusion to the gameplay loop, I hate the way you kill him. This is easily one of the worst enemies in Doom, and he almost ruined this fucking great DLC. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to put the spirit in trash. In fact, I might make an entire new tier for this piece of shit. So, coming up next, we have the Cursed Prowlers from the Ancient Gods Part 2. And dude, I'm gonna be completely honest, I think I hate these fucking enemies worse than the spirits. Because while yes, the spirits were insanely spongy, incredibly obnoxious, and just fucking irritating to deal with, at least they didn't take away your ability to dash and put a crappy green filter on the screen, because that's exactly what the Cursed Prowlers do. Now, I'll throw the Cursed Prowlers a little bit of credit. At least the arenas in Tag 2 are nowhere near on the level of difficulty as Tag 1, so I'll cut it some slack there. However, there's still no denying that almost everything about this enemy type is just fucking lazy. They couldn't even be bothered to make an entire new demon for this DLC. No, they had to fucking reskin all of the demons you've already fought and just give them different modifiers. Like, dude, come on, man. This is a paid DLC. At least give us some new demons. So yeah, the Cursed Prowlers just fucking suck in Tag 2. They're incredibly obnoxious to go up against. They completely kill the momentum and pacing of combat. The enemy design is fucking lazy. That crappy green filter on the screen is just the bane of my existence. And I genuinely think this might be worse than the spirits. That might be a bit of a hot take, but that's just my opinion. So, for all of those reasons and countless more I probably fucking didn't say, I'm going to put the Cursed Prowler in trash. Now, finishing off this list, we have the Acolytes from Doom the Dark Ages. And I'm just gonna say this right now, dude, I really don't like the Acolytes in this game, like, at all. I think they're incredibly fucking obnoxious. The Acolytes in this game have a very interesting concept where you have to take out the clones of the Acolytes before you capture the main one. However, the main problem with this is that the Acolytes just isn't that fun to fight. I really do think this enemy dramatically hurts the pacing of Doom the Dark Ages combat. I think it really sucks to run around the arena and look for the clones before you can kill the main Acolyte, which is probably the main reason I really didn't gravitate towards this enemy and just ended up kind of disliking it. Before we move on, I just want to comment on this creature's design because this creature looks absolutely fucking amazing. I think the art direction in Doom the Dark Ages is some of the most ambitious art direction we've had in this series, and my goodness does it show off in the Acolyte. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to put the Acolyte in Epic. Honestly, this video fucking killed me to make. I've been sick for the past like 4 or 5 days, and this video has definitely contributed to my negative physical health. So if you guys could maybe give this video a like, a comment, or subscribe, or fuck, even a hype, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Anyways, with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Take care.